Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. CalHope can help. Access CalHope's free and secure mental health resources. Call 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org.
Hi, it's Patrick O'Driscoll here. You might know me as Pods. I'd like to welcome you to the Adelaide Hills Farmcast. It's the podcast we produce for the love of farming right throughout the Adelaide Hills region. And now, I'll hand over to Adelaide Hills Farm Services' very own Belle Baker. Over to you, Belle.
Hi there, welcome to this month's Adelaide Hills Farmcast, the podcast that gives you a list of things to consider doing on your small acreage or lifestyle property in the coming months. And as luck would have it, I've got Pods here with me again. He's been out and around the house spraying weeds in our garden, and to be honest, the only way I could get him to stop making noise outside my office window was to get him to come in and join me in the podcast. So here we are. G'day, Pods.
G'day, Belle. Thank you very much for having me here in the office again. Thank you for the wonderful introduction.
No, to be honest, I am so grateful that you're here actually spraying our weeds, because it's like everything else in life, we always do our own last. You know, the roses will look a lot better without the weeds around their base now, so thank you.
You're welcome. That's a job that's been hanging over my neck for some time. Still haven't completed it just yet, but well on its way.
Yeah, no, it's looking a lot better. Thank you very much. In this episode of the Adelaide Hills Farmcast, we share a couple more interviews Pods did whilst we were at the Small Acreage Field Day in Echunga. The first one's with David George from Emmett's Oakbank. We asked him what small property owners should be considering when they're looking to buy a tractor. The second interview was with James Gilbert from Half a Cow. James runs an online platform where consumers can connect directly with producers. And then there's my interview with the lovely Jane Summers from Big Sky Flowers. Jane is such an inspiration. From the ashes of the Cudley Creek fires, quite literally, she has developed a fabulous business selling cut flowers. What I love most about what Jane's doing is that she didn't wait to have all her ducks in a row or flower beds all lined up. She started planting in the areas close to her home and along the driveway. She's having a go and is going gangbusters. So grab your snorkel and goggles and let's dive into this month's Almanac. Pods, let's start talking about hay. What is the season looking like? Let's face it, it's still wet. So what is the likelihood of availability in the Adelaide Hills going to be?
Great question, and yes, it's been a long winter. The spring hasn't really started yet with a very wet spring so far. Availability of hay as a result is going to be diminished due to the below average haymaking weather conditions that not so much in the hills is experienced yet, but out in traditional and greater hay growing regions of South Australia and Victoria. And hay quality is going to be reduced. Hay yield or available hay for sale is going to be reduced. That's going to result in the old adage of low supply, high demand, and potential prices rising quite markedly.
So it's fairly normal, Pods, in a hay season that there is an increase during the season as everyone wants more hay or there's less available. But you think it's going to start off at a higher rate. I mean, we spoke to James Stacey from Bremer Valley Fodder about his thoughts, and he was saying that the price is actually going to start higher, even though the quality of it is less because of the lack of in the whole supply chain. Is that right? Did I get that right?
That's correct. I think our hay availability is going to be low, hence that's going to push the price northbound. As I mentioned earlier, the haymaking conditions have not been favourable. Some hay is already down on the ground that may or may not be baled depending on how much rain it has had on it in the so-called curing period. And we're going to see a very, very extraordinary season as far as the hay market goes, I suggest with the limited amount of good quality hay could fetch exorbitant prices.
Right, okay. And it's not just the wet season or the rain and things that is causing the problem and the lack of supply. It's also the increase in inputs, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. We know diesel prices have increased. We know fertiliser prices have increased.
That's right, because
markedly.
James was saying it's gone up $1 per small bale. That's a lot per bale, isn't it?
That's a huge increase that his fertiliser cost per making one small square of hay is equated to $1 per bale
so
increase.
that just has to be passed on to the consumer.
That it does, not to mention our increase in chemical prices and prices do seem to go up, but they never seem to come down when it comes to the inputs.
No, that's right. So the other thing that James was saying was that it's now more important than ever to make sure you get a feed test with your hay so that you know what's in the hay that you're handing out. Now, of course, if you're paying more for your hay, you really want to know what's in it. So what's a feed test, Pods, and what does that mean?
A feed test is where the grower or producer should take samples of hay from their bales of hay upon baling. These samples are then sent potentially via their agronomist or farm consultant to a laboratory over in Victoria where that hay is tested. It's a ratified testing station accredited for Australia-wide, and that's going to give the grower an analysis of the hay. Such things as our crude protein, such things as the digestible, or the dry matter, metabolizable energy. I know I haven't got my tongue right around that. And other things such as the water-soluble
Carbohydrates.
Thank you, Belle.
That's
So,
all right.
in essence, for those of you who do wish to purchase hay from a producer, from a trader, I would strongly recommend you ask for a feed test first from that producer or trader. They should be able to, if they're reputable, provide that via email or in paper
and even the
form.
resellers will have that because it would have been
Absolutely.
supplied to them because they wouldn't. The resellers don't buy hay that they can't guarantee to their customers what's in it.
Correct.
Yeah. So what we're saying here too is that when you want to lock up your paddock and get your own hay cut, and you might have 5-10 acres, it's really hard to get a hay contractor to your property when you want them, because hay contractors generally do bigger properties first. That's where they're going to make their money. I mean, that's just pure economics, really. It's not that they don't want to come and help you. It's they've got to do the big jobs first. So in a way, you're actually better off spending your money on good quality hay where you know what you're getting in it than actually locking up your own paddock, waiting for a hay contractor, and then giving it out to your horses or cattle, not even knowing what's in it.
That summed up really, really well there, Belle, and I think that is the take-home message out of this segment. The person's buying the hay that you're speaking about, they need to understand what is the need for their hay. Is it for maintenance through the drier months? Is it for production, for growing cattle, growing lambs? Or is it for their horses, which is an entirely different dynamic?
But it's got to be palatable.
And it's got to be palatable. It's got to have the right amount of energy.
Struggling with that word today,
I am
Pods.
struggling, but we've got to have our energy levels up, particularly given we're quite possibly feeding out hay to cows and ewes during the cold winter months where their energy levels requirements are much higher.
Okay, so here's a couple of things that I've looked up from a company called Feed Test. The first one is the dry matter digestibility. I won't go into what it is, but what it says is that any feed that is over a 65% dry matter digestibility is determined to be high quality feed. Anything below 55% is determined to be poor quality, and it will not maintain the live weight of stock, even if they have free access to it, right? So what that tells me is that there's a chance you're feeding out hay to your horses or your cattle or your sheep that isn't even going to maintain their weight. And what I'm saying is you don't know what you're giving out. And what you don't know, you can't measure.
Spot on.
Yep,
Summed it up
that's my thought. And the other one that I wanted to mention was the water-soluble carbohydrates. And that is a measure of the total soluble sugars which are present in the forage. Now, if you're doing buying export hay or producing export hay, you want it around that 20%. But for horses, you want under 10% of the hay to be water-soluble carbs. So, in looking at a few things in this feed test website, and they've got a lot of averages, etc., if I was a horse person and I had my beautiful horses roaming around my paddocks, I'd want to be making sure, especially if I've had to spend good money on it, that I knew what was in the hay.
Absolutely, and we also wish to know that in that hypothetical case, Belle, that water-soluble carbohydrates, or let's make it a simple term, the sugars are very low, so then our horses don't founder and have other health issues, because at the end of the day, we want, no matter which stock breed we're talking about, we want strong, healthy stock to do what you want them to do.
Absolutely. So I found a fantastic feed requirement and costing calculator on the Agricultural Victoria website. Interestingly, I always look for South Australian information, but South SA government or agri websites just don't have it. I find a lot of information from Victoria, New South Wales and WA, and whatever I can that is relevant to us, I take it, but I do check, of course, but it's interesting that most of my resources aren't found here in South Australia. But anyway, it explains step by step how to work out the feed requirements for your horse and then how to work out the cost. It's brilliant. I highly recommend it. It's in layman's terms, and go and have a look if you're interested in updating your knowledge. I've got the links in the show notes. Now, I know it's short notice, but Irrigation, Pumps and More in Totnes are having a Davy Day on Wednesday, the 2nd of November. Anyway, Pods is popping into the event, aren't you, Pods? You're dropping in?
That I am.
Excellent, because you'd never miss an opportunity for a free sausage sizzle.
That I wouldn't.
Yeah, let's face it, that is important. But you're also going because we are getting a lot of requests at the moment to have people look at their irrigation and making sure everything's tickety-boo going into the summer season. So, it's actually good, and it is a good reminder that people need to be checking their systems, Pods, and making sure they're working.
Absolutely. Right now is the exact right time to check pressure pumps, submersible pumps, any other pumps on farm for your irrigation requirements over the summer, for your stock water requirements. Just as important, if not more important, for your bushfire prevention, firefighting needs should a bushfire occur in your given area, and hopefully you have got pumps and sprinklers set up to protect yourselves here throughout the Adelaide Hills, both housing and sheds and other infrastructure.
Now, Pods, that's just made me think. Now, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be checking our firefighting system on our house and around here. How about we record it? That'll be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how about we show people what we do? And the system that we put on our property a couple of years ago was actually not that expensive.
It wasn't, and I believe it's very, very effective, and it was less expensive than what I thought it was going to be. Yeah.
And it gives us absolute peace of mind. It's we might do that and include it in the next podcast. How about that?
Good one, Billy.
Excellent. Cool. All right. Now, I received the John Lamb Better Gardening Weekly email, and this week John mentions a new product called Pot Stream. It's a side-mounted watering solution for potted plants and containers. The website says it has an adjustable, gentle stream pattern that minimises soil erosion, and the variable flow rate and pattern radius allows for use in various post sizes. Damn handy, I'd say. I've done some Googling and they don't seem to be readily available around here. However, Brighton Irrigation does have them, and you can order them online or take a trip to the seaside and buy them in store. They're $35 for a bag of 25, so pretty cheap. I don't know how that happens. That's a lot of pots you can water, but maybe you've got a great aunt with a courtyard full of potted plants. Maybe she'd appreciate a bunch of them. Who knows? And did I mention they're actually Australian made? Now, spraying. Pods, as I mentioned, has been out spraying around our garden, which is very exciting. What have you been using for our weeds around here, Pods?
Very straightforward spray mix. I've been using glyphosate or Crucial 600 together with Nail 600 just to get rid of any milk thistles, cape weed, other volunteer grasses.
Isn't it too late for cape weed?
There's still cape weed there.
Oh, I know there's heaps, but aren't we...
But this is a knockdown, this is a blanket spray.
Ah, right. So what you were saying, I heard you say to a client earlier this week was you couldn't spray their cape weed, but that's because...
That was being a selective chemical in pasture, and the cape weed is... Most cape weed is most likely going to be setting seed and finishing its annual cycle and coming up to death very, very soon of its natural being.
Right, yeah, and that's even before Pods turns up. So tell me, Pods, what's the difference between a selective and a knockdown?
A knockdown is a blanket spray. A knockdown can either be...
So it kills everything?
Kills everything, such as Roundup, glyphosate. A selective is a selective. You can target your grass species in a broadleaf crop, ryegrass in a clover crop, for instance, or alternatively you can target the clovers in a ryegrass crop or in a wheat crop.
I'm not even going to ask.
Different chemistry.
Of course. Okay, so tell me then, now we're going to be doing a spray job over near Oakbank very soon, and they want to use a selective, and it's MCPA and... Camber-M. Now, the conversation you were having was you were very concerned about spraying in the vicinity, wasn't even really close, in the vicinity of vineyards this time of year. Why is that a problem?
That's correct, because the chemical recommendation was a product called Cutlass with its, as you said, the active constituent being MCPA and Camber-M. They're both a hormonal spray. Vineyards at the moment are in the process of budding up, so they're very, very susceptible to the hormonal sprays. I will proceed, but with huge caution, making sure that the weather conditions are right, the wind is in the correct direction and not the incorrect direction, so as to not upset our viticultural friends.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to do that. Well, I find that really interesting. So it's not that the product's a bad product, it's just that this time of year we have to be really careful.
Particularly here in the Adelaide Hills, likewise in the Fleurieu Peninsula, around the vineyard growing areas.
So here's a question without notice. I've heard you talk about an inversion layer, and I don't understand. It sounds like, how does that...
An inversion layer can occur either very, very early in the morning or very, very late in the evening, just after dawn, just before dusk. It's a very particular set of climatic conditions, and it's also occurs when there's basically no breeze, and the chemical droplets can hang in the air and hang, and then when a breeze comes along, and that can be the next day, later that evening, and then those droplets can then be picked up effectively by the breeze and then taken to another location many kilometres away, and then have an impact on a non-target species.
Okay, and look, I think you were talking a bit about that with David Evans in a previous podcast. But okay, so inversion layer, bad.
Correct. Thanks,
Pods. So hopefully that will give you a few ideas of what you could be thinking about and planning to do on your property in the coming months. I'll be back next month, maybe with Pods, that'll be good, and some more timely jobs to add to your to-do list. And don't forget, the show notes for this episode can be found on our website, adelaidehillsfarmservices.com.au. Here's Pods talking with David George from Emmett's in Oakbank, followed by a chat with James Gilbert from Half a Cow.
G'day there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Today still at the small acreage field days in Echunga, I have the great Mr. David George with me. He is one of the salesmen at Emmett's of Oakbank. Emmett's have many branches around South Australia and Victoria, but Emmett's supply farm machinery to all makes and models of farmers, and likewise. Good morning, David.
Yeah, good morning, Pods. How are you?
Very, very well, thank you, mate. Just
the way.
expand on that, the types of machinery you do sell under the Emmett's brand.
Well, as you probably know, we're a John Deere dealer. We sell mainly the tractor side of things, and we sell all-terrain vehicles, so the gators. We've also got a huge range of mowers in the John Deere range. We also sell small hay equipment. We also sell slashers, post-hole diggers, anything that you'd want to do on your small acreage farm, we're into, we can provide.
Okay, very good. Now, a question we've been asked a few times is, what should our clients be looking for if they felt the need to be buying a tractor? What are some of the parameters you would answer that question to a prospective person here with a small acreage? Now, I know that's somewhat of an ambiguous question, but I'm guessing it depends on the acreage. It depends on what they are running or wanting to run on their farm. What are they trying to achieve?
Well, it's all about that. It's what are they using it for? What implements are they going to use? It's also about the different things that, like you have different livestock. Some people have horses, some people have cattle, some people just grow hay, some people just grow a small amount of vines and do some wine work. So there are so many variables. One thing we do stress is that it's not just what they're doing now, or it's what they could be doing in the next 10 years. So trying to cover off a period of time where they go, oh, hang on, I wish I bought this instead of that. That comes into it quite a bit.
It's an excellent point, David, and that's something I learned pretty quick in my farming days in the Mallee, that if you did see the need to be updating or buying a piece of equipment, not just to look at it from today and next month's and next year's point of view, but projecting out to where your business may be taking you in 5, even 10 years' time, and looking at different scales, different needs, different wants.
Yeah, well, it's a very good point. So we even suggest that perhaps going a little bit bigger or stronger or more power than you might have first thought, because you'll find that once you've got a tractor, that you'll find other jobs that you can do with it. So yeah, this might do the job today, but if you bought one slightly bigger, you'll find that, I can achieve that now because I've got this size tractor.
Correct. And it's just caused me to think about something with what you said before with your gators or side-by-side vehicles. They're becoming more and more popular as we head as time goes by, and very, very commonplace with the small acreage farmers of the hills coupled together with viticulture and horticulture. But have you got any comments you'd like to make about what should we be looking for and what advantages are there in purchasing a gator or a side-by-side vehicle?
Well, the good news is with gators, there are regulations with the safety side of things. So a lot of small acreage people, a lot of farmers in general, will have children or their kids are using them, driving them. So you can reliably say, well, do that in the gator. If they do get into strife, it's got rollover protection, and kids being kids, they'll might push the boundaries from time to time and that sort of things, but you've got the safety there. Quad bikes have got a bad reputation these days for people getting into trouble and hurting themselves. So the gator has a lot more flexibility, a lot more use. You can tow more things with a gator than as well as the utility side of things with your tray in the back of them. So,
And
yeah.
coupled together with that, the tray, you do have a tipping option on a lot of the models of the Gators, which has just got to be,
Yeah, that's-
got to make your day-to-day operation so much easier and maybe even so much safer.
Well, the John Deere do it very well. There's the centre of gravity on a Gator is just as easy to drop the tray as it is empty or full. So if you've got a full load in it, it's still balanced beautifully and it's just as easy to tip it back. Or if you like, you can get a electric operated tilt on it, which takes it another step.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, David,
you're welcome.
and all the very best to you and the staff at Emmett's upon the remainder of the field day, and all the very best for your business going forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks
again.
for including us.
Good man.
Cheers.
G'day again, trendsetters. Still here at the Echunga Small Acreage Field Day, and now I have Mr. James Gilbert from Bracunga in the eastern Adelaide Hills with his newly formed business called Half a Cow. Thank you for your time, James, and
Thank you,
good
yeah.
to see you.
Thank you.
Now, can you just describe to us your concept of Half a Cow, please, mate?
Sure. Look, in a nutshell, we're a farmer to consumer marketplace. So what that means is all the farmers can come on the site, register their farm, and then sell their meat directly to the public. We don't sell the farmers what to sell. We don't tell them what to set their prices for. They set their prices. They have their own farm page. It really is a marketplace, a bit like this one, but just online and only for farmers who sell meat.
You've set the website up and you're facilitating sales for farmers, no matter their location, any part of Australia?
Any part of Australia, yep. We've obviously got a bit of a base in South Australia at the moment, but we want to get more farms from all around the country that can benefit from basically having their prices set by themselves rather than worrying about the marketplace or the stockyard prices.
So you've got a database of producers. What about buyers? And have you found already, have you got buyers who are now repeat buyers? And how do you go about trying to broaden the amount of buyers who would be interested and potentially purchase meat online through your website?
Yeah, sure. We sell mainly in bulk, so it's easy for the farmer, so a quarter a cow, half a sheep, that kind of thing. Only been running about 6 weeks, so a bit soon for repeat buyers. I mean, take me about 3 or 4 months to eat half a sheep. But in terms of promoting the platform, we come out to days like this. We go on radio with local stations like Power FM, 5MU. We also do a lot of Facebook marketing. We're also doing some big national marketing in the capital cities as we go throughout the rest of the year.
What is your website address, please?
It's halfacow.farm.
halfacow.farm. So for all you good people out there interested, there we have it. There's James's contact details. Thank you again.
No worries, thank you.
Today on the Adelaide Hills Farmcast, I'm out at Bracunga on a really quite a mild day, and it's not raining, so we're loving that. I'm out here with Jane from Big Sky Flower Farms, and Jane, it's amazing how our previous lives intersect with our new lives, because you've been saying about the rosellas and how bad they've been this year because they forgot to go on holidays.
Yes.
And is that, you used to be a travel agent,
Yeah.
and then COVID hit, and that whole career went out the window? Is that what happened?
Pretty much, yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Is that something that you've been passionate about and you want to go back to it all, or you're way into rosellas and flowers now?
I was very passionate about it, and I was very good at it, and I did enjoy it, but a lot of things changed in those couple of years with the bushfires and COVID and having kids all at around the same time. Just went on a different path and found a new
like
passion.
the perfect three, isn't it? There.
Yeah.
So it was the fires first, and
Correct.
they went through your property.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that was in December 2019, and then COVID, obviously, March 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, but I had Harry just before the bushfires, so he was 2 and a bit months old.
Right. Yeah. So you've had a bit going on.
Yeah, it's been busy.
Yeah. But through all of that, you've come out the other side with this beautiful flower farm. And just looking around today, it's remarkable to see how it's grown and how it's growing.
Yeah.
And I love the way you're using every square spot of your property here. So how many acres have you got, and how many acres are currently under flowers?
Yeah. So we are on a 10-acre property, but we are currently farming on about 2.5 acres.
Okay, 2.5 acres. So that's quite a lot of flowers.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And so what's the goal? What's the plan? How, is all of your 10 acres arable or able to be put down to flowers? Is that the plan?
No, we've got a large paddock, which we have a couple of horses on, which we do just want to leave just for us. It is a little bit hilly, very rocky, so we try and leave that just for us. But we've got 3 main paddocks. We've got my paddock, which is what the flowers
what we're
are
looking
in.
at now. Yeah.
Then we've got my husband's paddock, which I've now
I love the way you have your own paddock.
We
So
do.
you're growing different, is he growing crops and you're
No,
growing
he's not
flowers?
growing anything.
He's just got a paddock?
He just
and
has a
it's like
paddock
his,
for his
man
hobbies.
shed, is it?
Yeah,
That's his-
sort of, but I've taken it over, unfortunately.
As
So
we do.
He's
As we
been
do.
pushed out into the horse paddock.
Right. Okay, just to do farm stuff on that.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that. You've all got your own paddocks. That's great.
Well, he
And-
did.
Tell me about the flowers you've got here.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not know how many different bulbs or varieties you've got,
No.
or do you?
No, I actually don't. It's something that I'd probably need to put
Gosh,
a list
but-
together.
Yeah, but when you've got a spare moment,
Yeah, I
putting that
know.
list together
I
would
know.
take a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I had last season. That was a bit of my trial
Yes.
garden. So I had that just in our home garden.
Yes.
And that's where I trialed a few different varieties of to see what I enjoyed and what I didn't enjoy.
Yes.
But then obviously we've expanded out into the paddock, so we are trying a lot more different varieties this
Yeah,
year.
so I love that because you've just said you've tried varieties to see what you liked. You didn't say which ones worked.
Well, it's a bit of both. I have had a lot of people say to me, and I completely agree, that if you don't enjoy growing something, you don't look after it.
That's right. I
So,
love hearing that, keeping passion first and foremost. That's something we talk about quite a bit in this podcast, about people on their small acreage. If they want to get into cattle or sheep or grow crops, as long as they're passionate about it, what it is, then the likelihood of more success and looking after it has got to be much higher. So I love hearing that. I think that's fantastic. Tell me, your flowers, I'm looking out there now, they're at all different stages. So, like the ones along your driveway garden beds are beautiful. Do you focus on spring flowering flowers?
No,
Spring-
so I do a bit of everything. So basically the aim is for the season to last as long as possible.
Yes.
So we have late winter, early spring flowers.
Yes.
And then right through until late autumn.
Right. Okay. So you get a little bit of leeway,
Yeah.
but that's probably when you're preparing the garden beds.
Well, that's the crazy thing is, and that's something that I learned the hard way this year, is that February is probably the peak time for harvesting and selling, but that's when you start getting ready for the next season.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I completely underestimated how much time I needed to put into preparing at that stage of the year.
So do you get people in to help you with that? How are you managing that?
Well,
'Cause-
I'm slowly, as the business is growing, that's when I can start taking on more people and looking at increasing our staff here.
Yeah, okay. Because, I mean, just looking at where we are now, we're in, do you call it a packing shed?
Yeah, so processing
Processing
shed.
shed?
Yeah.
The smell that permeates through here because of this morning's arrival of
Fresh
beautiful
compost.
compost. It's, I do wish people could really understand, how I'm trying to breathe and talk at the same time. But it is a beautiful smell because it's a growing smell.
It's a fertile smell.
It is a particularly fertile smell. But in the processing shed, you've got a cool room.
Correct.
That's going to come in very handy,
Yes.
help you keep your flowers.
Yeah, it's going to be a big game changer for us this year.
Yeah, because now as many of you might know, my mum has grown native flowers for export for a lot of years now. So we have she has a similar setup at home, and she can pick and picks all week, and then on one day of the week she will deliver. So she can keep her flowers for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
But they are native flowers. How does that work with your beautiful, much more delicate flowers that you do here?
Well, with the type of cool room that we've got, it's specifically for flowers. So
I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, so there are differences between cool rooms for food and cool rooms for flowers.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, this way it doesn't fluctuate the temperature too much, but also it's not blowing air onto the flowers, which is a big difference.
Right.
Yeah, so it's an expensive exercise.
Yes, it
so
is, but
should
I'm
pay
guessing.
off.
Yeah, that's right. In the
Yeah.
longer term, and it's like all these things in farming. You don't plant a seed today and reap tomorrow.
No.
You have to invest,
Yes.
take time,
Yes.
and then you get the rewards at the end.
Yes.
So just going back a sec, looking at what are your main varieties that you've got here? Because in these beautiful photos you have on the socials, they are just a massive colour.
Yeah.
But are there some main ones that you can tell me about?
Yeah, well, probably
And there's
at the
bulbs
moment
behind, like
dahlia tubers still going. So
yes.
our biggest crop are our dahlias, which are a summer flowering plant. So
Right.
they'll start to flower probably mid-January.
Yes.
But they're a big exercise in that, we get a few months of them flowering and they're for both retail and wholesale. But then we dig them up and divide them and then we sell the tubers. So a tuber is like a
Wow.
bulb, but it's
So you're doing sort of end to end.
correct.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, there's a huge market at the moment. There's a bit of a craze with dahlias.
Right.
So yeah, there's a big market for selling
How
the
did
actual
you
tubers.
find out? How did you find out, or how did you find even a retail market I can kind of see in the local market. I see that on the socials all the time. But how did you find a wholesale market and then to find this, the end thing where you can sell the tubers?
Yeah, well, a lot of what I have learned has actually been on social media. So we have a couple of Australian micro flower farming Facebook groups that
Yes.
I follow and we all come together and support each other, which has been amazing for me. But in regards to the wholesale, I think that's the crazy thing is probably 90% of my wholesale customers have come to me and have seen
Wow.
things from
Jane,
social
you must be-
media.
you're
and
doing something
Yeah.
absolutely right out
That's
there. And
exciting.
yeah, it is exciting. It really is. So tell me, we were talking earlier on, I mentioned about the rosellas.
Mm-hmm.
We have been talking about a wet, miserable winter.
Mm.
But your experience is that it's actually been wet, but it's been a warmer winter.
Yeah, well, it has been a touch warmer than what it has been previous years. I think it's our second year of being a little bit warmer. So a lot of the birds, and mainly the rosellas, have chosen not to migrate this year. So they've been a complication for lots of farms, unfortunately,
Yeah.
with them eating the flowers, the blossoms, and then, of course, for things like orchards, they no blossoms means no fruit.
So how are you mitigating that? Have you got some fabulous scarecrows around the place? How are you getting the kids out there running around?
I tend to run up the driveway in my
Yeah.
pajamas, screaming at birds.
That'd be fairly scary. Yep.
Yeah,
No offense.
They're getting
but,
getting used to me doing it though.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so that's been interesting.
Maybe we better send pods out there doing that. No, that might be a bit scarier.
Yeah, so that keeps it interesting. Yeah, there's you can do gas guns, you can do netting, you can do as
But
much
at
as
this
you can.
stage,
But
is it not bad enough to warrant?
it has been pretty bad.
Okay.
With myself, because of the stage that I'm at with young children, I'm. Someone once said to me, "When you can, when all you can do is the bare minimum, do the bare minimum
Yes.
plus a little bit more."
Yes.
So at the moment, that's what I've been doing.
That's
So
wise words.
There's a lot of running up the driveway at the
Yes.
moment, but other things as well. Things like our ranunculus, which are little corms, like a bulb, but they're
Yes.
called a corm. Instead of putting them straight in the ground, I pre-planted them and soaked them and put them in soil and then planted them out when they're at a slightly more mature stage.
So they're more resilient to that.
Yeah,
Or-
they tend to be what I've found personally here. Once they are a little bit more mature, they
They're not as
leave
taste-
them alone
Yep.
a little bit. They do like to come and just eat the heads off of the
Right.
flowers, but once they're bigger, they tend to leave them alone a bit
Okay,
more.
because that leads me to rabbits. And anyone who's listened to this Farmcast before will know that me and rabbits do not get along. My garden is close to non-existing because of the rabbits. Do you have a rabbit problem here? And what about kangaroos? Where are you on,
Yeah.
these wonderful native animals we're supposed to adore, and yet they can pretty much destroy any crop.
We are lucky that our fencing around some of our property is quite high.
Did you put that in yourself?
No, that was here.
here?
That was the lovely neighbours that were here before us, or owners of the house rather.
That's lucky. That's great.
Yeah. No, they loved a good high fence with razor wire on the top of it.
Really?
So
okay.
that was taken down.
Wow.
But so I appreciate it's like deer fencing, I guess.
Yes, yep.
But it's not around the whole property. It's not around the back. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. We had some a resident kangaroo that was here after the bushfire. I think she may have lost sight in one of her eyes. And then we noticed that she had a little Joey.
Oh.
So they sort of grew up here they were here for almost 2 years.
Wow.
But that's the only the kangaroos that I've had there. But I'm just hoping that we won't get more with obviously it looking more tempting.
Yeah. And I suppose, that's right. So the kangaroos probably take one, and rabbits probably take one look and go, I'll get myself a meal here. We know what Peter Rabbit does, don't we?
It'll be worse in summer when everything else is dry and we're nice and green. So that's a future Jane problem that Jane should probably address now.
Yeah. And that is something that we talk about, and it's one of Pods's bugbears is to plan your fencing before you need it, because sometimes getting a contractor when you need it and to order materials in, etc., can
it's the materials that are the issue.
Undue pressure on the person who needs it. So now just a couple of things I do want to ask you. Have you had any magnificent fails that you can share with our listeners about? You've had a go. You are doing a superb, amazing job. But sometimes when we start out, something goes spectacularly wrong.
Absolutely. I've killed so many plants.
Yeah. Now, see, I find that, sometimes it's really refreshing to hear that when you start out, it's not all rainbows and pretty flowers.
No.
There are days where you go, oops.
Yeah. Pretty much most days. It's a bit of oops. But because I don't have a background in this industry, I am learning as I go. So I find personally one of the best ways to learn is from mistakes, and you can change that for the next season. But probably the biggest mistake that I made, as I was saying before about how I soaked and pre-sprouted corms for my ranunculus before planting them out because of the bird issue. You don't have to, but, some people recommend soaking these corms because they are dry. Soak them for a couple of hours, then you plant them out or put them in soil. It just gives them a head start to hydrate. But sometimes with kids that doesn't go to plan. No. And I think I put about $400 worth of corms in a bucket and forgot about them.
Okay.
And they rotted.
Yes. Okay. Look, and I guess in the scheme of things, if that's the worst thing that happened, and you won't do it again.
No.
Or you might.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it.
The joy of working with children at home.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And Jane, are there any secrets or things that you found work really well in your garden beds that for the home gardener, somebody who wants to grow beautiful ranunculi at home or dahlias, is there something, is that it, that you soak your ranunculi?
I don't know if I will do it next year, so that's probably not...
because the risk of leaving you in the bucket is too high.
Exactly. Just whether it's always necessary or not. Probably the best advice that I have is to focus on building your soil. So that is the best thing that you can do.
Soil health,
soil health is just so important.
Did you get advice on that, or have you've just added everything?
Yeah, no. So I did. I got a soil test. So
good.
with an
well
agronomist.
Done. We love that.
So that certainly helps. But I just think it's so important. I'd hate to think of how much money I've spent on compost.
No. Details, darling, details.
Oh, goodness. But it's that, putting soil conditioners, knowing the difference between soil conditioners and fertilisers.
Can you tell me what that is? Because I don't really, I don't know that I could explain it.
Well, I'm not an expert either.
No,
but
sorry. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I'm a big fan of Nutrog products.
Yes. And they're local? They're just down the road?
They're up the road. So I use mainly their products.
Yes.
Just looking at the differences between something like sea mongoose, which is a soil conditioner. So that's all about putting healthy microbes into the soil, so beneficials, which help set up the soil for success. So that really helps. And then fertilising to really nourish the soil and to nourish the plants. And
that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, it is interesting as well because with the combination of the compost, soil conditioners and fertilisers, that's where you start seeing just things like the amount of worms that are in the soil. It's phenomenal how quickly that can
And do you
change.
renew that every year, or is that sort of good for a few years?
I try and top it up each year.
Because you are doing it for a commercial purpose.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we want to get the best out of our soil.
Yeah. All right. Gosh, that's interesting. My mind's I've got so many more questions, but maybe we better leave them for another day. Where do we find your flowers? If for people out there who've listened to the Farmcast and they want to go and buy your flowers, where do we go to buy them or get more information?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of ways in which you can buy our beautiful flowers. You can contact me directly, and we do have a farm gate stall out the front of the property.
Yes, yep.
But we have our beautiful stockers. So we have Haven in the Hills in Nan.
Yes.
They've been stocking my flowers.
Yes, the beautiful Tanya does a wonderful job, doesn't she?
She's just...
Yes.
I couldn't have asked for a better person, a better human to deal with for my first time with getting someone to stock my flowers.
She lives just very close to here too.
She's just up the road,
Yep.
so she's just beautiful. And then Green Valley Strawberries.
Yes. One of our favourite places.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Field Trip Balhanna.
Oh yes, I spend just a bit too much time there.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to walk into these places and come out with a profit because I just tend to spend the money I make there.
Yeah. I think we've got a little bit in common here. And for those listeners, listening along at home, Pods is standing in the background here, shaking his head, going, "Yeah, I don't like where this is going." So, look, Jane, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you for showing me your beautiful flowers and your gorgeous farm. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Adelaide Hills Farmcast. We hope you've enjoyed this month's episode and jotted down a few things for your to-do list. You can leave comments and send questions on the show notes page for this episode, which is on our website, adelaidehillsfarmservices.com.au. Just click on the Farmcast tab and look for the November episode. See you next time.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. CalHope can help. Access CalHope's free and secure mental health resources. Call 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.